Welcome everybody to the first official episode of the Butler Talks. For those of you who might be tuning in for the first time, let me give you a quick intro on myself. I played football at Northwestern University and at Abilene Christian, and those experiences gave me a deep love for the game. It wasn't just the X's and O's, however. It was the rivalries, the atmosphere, and just the way that football tends to bring people together. And that's what we're going to be here breaking down every single week. And man, it was a perfect way to start this season. Week 1 of college football came out swinging. Electric atmospheres, statement wins, shocking upsets. We're diving into all of it today. Texas and Ohio State in their heavyweight showdown. Alabama stumbling at Florida State. LSU proving that they're for real. And Miami and Notre Dame putting on a show. Plus a couple quick hits from the rest of the country. This episode is going to be loaded. Let's get straight into it. Let's start off with the biggest game of the weekend. Ohio State versus Texas. The stadium was absolutely electric, and it was the perfect way to kick off the year. It really reminded me of that 2011 LSU versus Alabama game. For those of you who know, they know. It was called the game of the century, and just like in that scenario, I can see both of these teams lining it up again in the postseason. On paper, you really would have thought Texas would have had the advantage. They kept their coaching staff intact, they had continuity at the top of their defense, and Ohio State was coming off of what I assumed would be a championship high. But wow, Ohio State, Ryan Day, and the new coordinators look like they are going to be the same dominant program they were last year. Let's get into some of the biggest takeaways from the game, starting with Ohio State and their defense. First things first, their defense is still elite. Matt Patricia had Texas and Arch Manning spinning with their rolling coverages and their exotic blitz looks. It looked like he was playing chess while Texas was still setting up the board. Let's also talk about Brian Hartline's offense. He drew up a beautiful game plan. Julian Sand didn't need to be Superman, just like what we said last week. He made quick and easy throws, and Hartline schemed it up to keep Texas' defense off balance. We also got to give a big shout out to C.J. Donaldson. That dude looks like he needs to be the clear RB1 in Columbus. He has a punishing running style, and he is going to move the chains when it matters. And that's going to be huge later this year against teams like Michigan, Penn State, and the playoff opponents that Ohio State is going to see. Let's talk about Caleb Downs. He is that guy. I swear it looked like he was everywhere on Saturday. No matter where Patricia lined him up, he impacted the game. You can already tell this staff is going to have a lot of fun unleashing him all season. Bottom line, Ohio State's look every bit the number 1 team in the country, and repeating is for sure on the table for the Buckeyes. Now, let's get into Texas. It wasn't all bad. Though this is one of those losses that you never see coming, it's also a great experience in week 1 to go against a great team like Ohio State. Let's talk about Arch Manning. He looked rattled early and he pressed late, but you did see the flashes. The talent is definitely there. The question is, can Sark build the scheme around his strengths? If they do, Arch will be just fine. Their defense is still going to be elite. Those young corners are only going to get better, and it's only going to make it that much harder to move the ball on this unit. They'll be the backbone of this team if Texas makes a playoff run. Let's also talk about the wide receiver room down there in Austin. That is a major issue. Somebody is going to need to step up and become an alpha, or this offense is going to stall in big games just like we saw on Saturday. Overall, Texas will be just fine. The next few weeks are about forging an offensive identity that truly complements Arch. That is going to be the pivot point for everything with them. Next up, let's get into the shocker of the weekend. Alabama losing to Florida State, man. It's not even the fact that they lost. It's how they did it. They were flat, uninspired, and under a head coach like Kalen DeBoer, who needs to correct his momentum after the way they ended last season. You cannot lose a game like that. You simply cannot. Especially when you have a starting quarterback who's been in the program. You're not even dealing with a transfer. You can't even chuck it up to that. The only positive for that Alabama team is Jeremy Bernard looks like he's going to be a great receiver for him this year. But if Ryan Williams doesn't come back and their defense just gives up the run game like that, it's not going to matter. Florida State, we really have to give them all the credit in the world. Mike Norvell has momentum, and it looks like him rebuilding through the portal is paying off once again. Their quarterback, Tommy Castellanos, played a beautiful game. He just oozes confidence and he smiles through the fight. And that's something, as a football player, I am telling you, it is something that his teammates will feed off of and it will get them through big moments and big games. Let's also talk about Gus Malzahn's offense. It is tailor-made for Castellanos, and it is tailor-made to beat the Tide. And it showed. They haven't stopped a mobile quarterback since I was in middle school. We've also got to talk about Florida State's offensive line. They were my hogs of the week. 230 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 4 yards a pop on what we thought was going to be a tough SEC front. That is a statement. Big picture, that Week 5 showdown against Miami just got massive for Florida State. For Bama, it is gut check time. One loss does not end the season. But losing the way you did and the way you looked, if it happens again, your season will be over faster than you can say roll tide. Let's talk about LSU versus Clemson now. It was a matchup of the Tigers, and it told us so much. For LSU, Garrett Nussmeier was one of the few experienced quarterbacks out there in Week 1, and man, he looked poised. Calm in the pocket, made the right read, led an offense that looks explosive, and he has developed into an incredible game manager. The Tigers are going to be dangerous moving forward. Aaron Anderson looks like he's going to be another great Tigers receiver. How often are we saying that? I feel like it's every 2 years they're putting another one in the league, and we just got to accept the fact that they're going to be going for 1,300 yards, 8 tubs every year in the NFL. Harold Perkins was also finally being used correctly by Brian Kelly, and I know that has to be music to LSU fans' ears. He's going to be a nightmare for offenses, and he will still be a crucial part of where LSU goes this year. On the flip side, Clemson. I fell for it. You got me. I fell for it. 1.6 yards a carry on 20 attempts at home. I fell for it. That is unacceptable. That number cannot happen again if Clemson even wants a chance to sniff a playoff spot, let alone win a national title. We also got to talk about Cade Klubnik. He has to be better. It is unacceptable on the ground and in the air. If he can't elevate his game, they will be wasting a championship-level defense. LSU walked away looking like legit title contenders, but Clemson walks away with a laundry list of problems that need to be solved and quick. Our last game of the week, we had Miami versus Notre Dame in a beautiful showcase of football. It was so refreshing, and I truly believe it is one of the few games of the weekend both teams and their fan bases can walk away feeling happy about what happened on the field. For Notre Dame, C.J. Carr is giving Irish fans real hope. He flashed enough to believe that the future is bright. But Jeremiah Love, the preseason All-American, he has to show up. If he doesn't, Notre Dame can forget about a CFP run. And for Miami, what a win. Carson Beck looks sharp. The defensive transfers hit big, especially my boy Keontae Scott. And this feels like a team that can really make some noise. The only knock, don't take your foot off the gas late. But overall, Coral Gables should be buzzing. All right, we're going to look at a couple other games that really stood out to me week 1. We had Georgia Tech versus Colorado. Haynes King carved them up in the red zone. Colorado does still look like they have the potential to contend for the Big 12, but Pat Shurmur has to use Caden Salter's athleticism or they'll be fighting for bowl eligibility. We also had Auburn versus Baylor. Auburn's run game dominated. Jackson Arnold wasn't sharp throwing, but he used his legs to punish the Bears. Let's go to Tennessee versus Syracuse. The Vols rolled on offense, but they need their defensive line, especially that interior, to get healthy if they want a chance to chase championships. Let's go to Virginia Tech versus South Carolina. The Hokies dropped way too many catchable passes. The Gamecocks looked good defensively, but their offense needs to find a little bit more of a rhythm for them to be true SEC contenders. We also had Michigan versus New Mexico. Bryce Underwood flashed, but the rest of the Wolverines need to step up when fresher mistakes hit inevitably down the road. We also had the Penn State versus Nevada game. Drew Allers looks like he is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. With that running back duo, Penn State is going to be a real problem for those Buckeyes out in Columbus. Last up, we've got Kansas State versus North Dakota. The Wildcats have a chance in the Big 12, but they need to tighten up quick to stay alive in a crowded race. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with our NFL Week 1 look ahead. All right, shifting gears. Let's now talk about the NFL. Week 1 is here, and just like college football, we've got fireworks waiting to go off. This is where the grind is going to start, and every game is going to feel like it can tilt the playoff picture. We've got a heavyweight showdown for our game of the week with Baltimore going to Buffalo. We also have huge divisional matchups and fresh faces in new places. These are all matchups that could shape the storylines of the entire season. Let's start with our game of the week. The Ravens at the Bills. These are two teams that I have winning their divisions and two teams that have real Super Bowl aspirations. They split their matchups last year with each of the home teams taking care of business, and this one feels like an early shot at pole position for the 1 seed in the AFC. Let's talk about the Ravens first. Starting off with the big fella himself, Derrick Henry. He averaged over 7 yards a carry against the Bills last season. That is not a typo. If Baltimore wants to win this game, he's got to do it again. They have to pound the rock, control the tempo, and wear down that Buffalo front. On defense, the last time these two met, the Ravens were gashed by the Bills' run game. That cannot happen again. Joe Brady and Buffalo's offensive line will touch them early and often. And if Baltimore is able to win against the run, the new guys like Malachi Starks and Mike Green can go make plays. We also have to talk about Lamar Jackson anytime we talk about the Ravens. Lamar is under pressure this year. Every offseason, the Ravens have gotten picked as the Super Bowl team. And then disappointment in January or February. Lamar and the Ravens started slow last season, and that ultimately hurt them in their playoff season. He knows that cannot happen again, and Week 1 in Buffalo is a perfect chance to flip that script. Now, let's talk about the Bills, starting off with James Cook. The question for him is how effective can he be? He held out for a contract late into the preseason, and rust is real. If he is not efficient, Josh Allen's workload could go way up, and that is when mistakes start to creep in. On defense, this unit still has teeth, but it needs veterans like Joey Bosa and Tre'Davious White to step up. If they are balling, Buffalo has a real chance to be the best defense in the league. And also, we have to talk about Josh Allen. Just like Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, you cannot talk about the Bills without bringing up Josh Allen. He was the MVP last year, but not because of his crazy numbers. It was leadership, and it was the fact that they were the 1 seed in the AFC. Still, someone in that wide receiver room will need to step up and be the guy. With Stephon Diggs now being 2 years removed from being the star of the Bills' offense, they either need Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakur, or another guy to step up and be the face of that. Whoever wins this game not only is going to start off the year 1-0, but they will have a huge advantage at being one of the top 2 seeds in the AFC. When you think about the AFC, it's really these 2 teams in Kansas City, and with all 3 of them playing each other, every single matchup, especially these, are going to count. All right, let's run through some other massive games here in Week 1. We've got the Buccaneers at the Falcons. This one is going to be huge for the NFC South race. I picked Tampa to win the division, but if Atlanta can protect their home field early, this whole division will look a lot different. Baker versus Michael Penix is sure to be fun, but I am going to stick with Tampa. The Bucs should win. We also have the 49ers at the Seahawks. Sam Darnold is in Seattle, and Mike McDonald and that Seattle coaching staff is hoping that he still has some of that old Donald magic sprinkled on him from last year. But the Niners are going to be too tough. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, and the rest of their team will overpower Seattle. I have the 49ers. And then we have the Lions and Packers on Sunday night. It is a Sunday night football game that has some real juice. The Packers just traded for Micah Parsons, which is a massive Super Bowl or bust move. Green Bay can announce themselves as part of the NFL elite right here. Detroit is stacked. They have a healthy defense, and they have new coordinators. But I can't go against Lambeau. It's going to be loud. It's Micah Parsons' debut. The Packers are going to win, and Jerry Jones is going to hate every second of it. Here's a couple more games worth touching on. We have the Chiefs versus the Chargers. Rashee Rice's suspension is sure to hurt, but this is Kansas City. Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo are still there. Spags will for sure dial up some pressure to test out LA's rebuilt offensive line. LA will need Omarion Hampton and at least one receiver to ball, but I'm rolling with Mahomes. The Chiefs are going to start off the year 1-0. We also have the Cowboys versus the Eagles on Thursday night. No Micah Parsons for the Cowboys is a nightmare, especially against Philly. They're going to drop a banner and they might drop 100 on the boys. The Cowboys are going to have a bad season, and this is only going to be the start. Philly's going to win big. We also have the Steelers versus the Jets. We got Aaron Rodgers versus his team from last year and Justin Fields versus his team from last year. That is a game that is for sure to be heating up, and it is going to be a defensive battle. I trust Pittsburgh to make more than enough plays to get this done. The Steelers are going to win. We also have the Texans coming to LA to take on the Rams. It is one of the best games of this week. CJ Stroud is returning home, but he does not have Joe Mixon with him in the backfield. The rebuilt Texans offensive line is for sure to have their hands full with the Rams' young defensive front. And on the flip side, Stafford is finally healthy, and he's got Devontae Adams next to Puka Nacua. That is scary. I'm taking the Rams to start off the year on the right note. And there you go. Week 1 of the NFL. Loaded with storylines, division tilts, and a heavyweight game of the week in Buffalo. You got the Ravens, you got the Bills, two teams with everything to prove and everything to lose. And across the rest of the league, we're already talking about statement wins, message games, and playoff implications. In week 1, the NFL season is shaping up to be incredible, and we're just getting started. Let us know in the comments who you've got winning these matchups, and don't forget to follow the Butler's Talks for the best sports content on the internet. Football season is officially back. We're here to talk about it all year long. Come join us.